My name is Brianna Lewis, and I'm 28 years old. 5 years of grinding to build my startup disappeared in a single day when my sister sold my laptop, my lifeline, for closing $1 million deal to buy a designer dog. I found out at home, staring at an empty desk where my work lived. My blood boiled. I screamed. "Where's my laptop?" My sister smirked at the door, leash in hand, that overpriced fluffball yapping behind her. My mother didn't even blink. She slapped me once, then yelled, "It's just a dog." "Brianna, stop making a scene." Her words cut deep, but that smirk burned even more. They thought I'd roll over, like always, after years of them taking pieces of me. Not this time. I grabbed my phone, stormed out, and dialed my financial advisor. "Liquidate everything," I said, my voice steady. The next morning, my phone lit up 33 missed calls from my mother, her voicemails pleading. "Please don't do this," I texted back. "Then I'll sell you all to buy back the dog." That laptop wasn't just metal and circuits, it was my future, my sweat, my dreams. What happened next flipped our family upside down. 3 years ago, my grandfather left me something they never saw coming. Something that gave me the power to pull the plug on their games. By the time the dust settled, their world was crumbling, and I held the keys to everything. If you've ever had family take what's yours, comment boundaries below and share your story. I drove to the coffee shop in Denver where the family was waiting. The place was busy with morning rush, but I spotted them at a corner table right away. My sister Kayla sat with the dog on her lap, stroking its fur like nothing happened. Mom sipped her latte. Dad scrolled his phone, and Aunt Taylor and Uncle Joshua leaned in whispering. I pulled up a chair without a greeting. "Explain why you thought selling my work tool was okay," I said, keeping my tone even. Kayla rolled her eyes. "You overreact to everything. The dog helps with my anxiety after losing that job. It's therapy." Mom nodded quickly. "She's right, Brianna. She's been struggling, and no one else could pitch in. Family supports each other." I leaned forward. "Supporting doesn't mean taking my equipment without asking. That device ran my client meetings and code reviews." Dad looked up briefly. "We all make sacrifices. Your startup is doing fine, you can replace it." Aunt Taylor chimed in. "Young people need pets for emotional health these days. It's not like she trashed it. She got a good price for the sale." Uncle Joshua added. "Yeah, and the dog breeder had a special on that breed. It was a deal we couldn't pass up." I felt the frustration build. A deal with my property. I've spent 5 years building this company from nothing. Late nights, coding prototypes, skipping meals to meet deadlines, pitching to investors who laughed me out the room at first. Kayla shrugged. "See, you're successful now? One device won't kill your business." Mom set her cup down. "Exactly. You're the stable one. We figured you'd understand. Kayla's mental state comes first." I shook my head. "Stable because I worked for it. Remember when I started, I took freelance gigs to fund the initial app development, turned down vacations to debug crashes. That laptop wasn't luxury, it stored my backups. My contracts." Dad muttered. "We're proud of you, but family emergencies happen." Aunt Taylor smiled. "The dog brings joy to the house. You should see how it calms everyone." Uncle Joshua nodded. "And it's purebred, worth the investment for her well-being." My phone buzzed a text from my financial advisor, Jasmine. "Check the records. Their old debts from pet supplies and loans are stacking up. Proceed with caution on any promises." I pocketed it without replying. "Investment? You mean misusing what I earned? This affects Tyler too. He helped with the beta testing on that machine." Kayla laughed lightly. "Tyler will get over it. You're both young professionals." Mom reached across. "Don't turn this into a fight. We're here to talk it out." I pulled back. "Talk you already decided. But let's hear your plan to fix it." Dad shifted. We'll figure something. Kayla can pay you back once she finds work. Aunt Taylor agreed. Give her time. The dog motivates her to get out more, Uncle Joshua said. Exactly. It's positive for the whole family. I stared at them. Positive while my project stalls. I've missed 2 deadlines already because of this. Kayla petted the dog, exaggerating as usual. Borrow a friend's computer. Mom sighed. See, solutions exist. Stop being so rigid. The advisor's text lingered in my mind. Their past borrowings for similar whims had left unpaid balances. I stood. Rigid is what kept me going these 5 years. You don't see the hours I put in, the rejections I faced, the risks I took alone. Dad frowned. We supported you emotionally, Aunt Taylor added. And now it's your turn to help back, Uncle Joshua said. Family isn't about keeping score. You owe us. Remember who gave you a place to stay when you first started out? My frustration peaked. Score. This is my livelihood. Kayla smirked again. Always about you. Mom hushed her. Enough. Let's order food and calm down. But I knew talking wouldn't change anything. Their excuses piled on, ignoring the real impact. As the conversation faded in my mind, I thought back to how it all started 5 years ago, when I launched my startup. I was 23, fresh out of college with big ideas but no backing. I bootstrapped everything, taking side gigs to buy my first equipment. My sister Kayla always had a thing for pets. And that's when the pattern began. She wanted a fancy cat, but couldn't afford it. So she borrowed my old phone to sell online without asking. It's just temporary, she said when I found out. The money went to the breeder, and I let it slide, figuring family meant helping out. Mom Denise saw it as normal. We share what we have, she told me one evening over dinner. Dad Zachary agreed silently, nodding as he ate. They pushed the idea of a shared family account for emergencies, like Kayla's pet needs. I added their names for convenience during my early startup chaos, when I worked 80-hour weeks coding the app prototype. But emergencies turned into habits. Kayla sold my spare tablet next, claiming she needed cash for dog food after adopting another stray. The proceeds covered vet bills, and the debt started small unpaid loans from relatives for her animal supplies. Over the years, it escalated. Kayla convinced Mom to use the account for a parrot cage, saying it was therapy for her mood swings. Aunt Taylor borrowed for her own cat's surgery, promising to repay, but never did. Uncle Joshua took cash for bird feed, adding to the pile. The family racked up debts, credit card charges for pet stores, unpaid bills from breeders. I covered them quietly, dipping into my startup savings to keep things afloat while I pitched to investors. Family comes first, Mom repeated whenever I questioned it. Dad stayed quiet, but his silence meant approval. Grandpa Henry noticed during his last months. He was in hospice, but his mind was sharp. One afternoon, he pulled me aside. They're draining you, Brianna, just like they did to me with their endless requests. I defended them at first, but he listed examples: the time Mom withdrew for Kayla's goldfish tank, leaving unpaid interest Dad had borrowed for a hamster habitat, adding to the family's growing debt from pet whims. Grandpa warned, it'll lead to bigger problems, like the loans they're ignoring now. Your mother once pushed me into co-signing a loan for Tracy years ago. The debts never stop. The debts were accumulating, small at first but compounding with late fees. That's when he involved my financial advisor, Jasmine. She met us at the hospital, documenting his plans. Grandpa explained the trust he'd set up to protect assets from their spending. You're the only one who values hard work, he said, gripping my hand. Jasmine noted every detail, ensuring the structure shielded my startup funds from their reach. The account sharing had allowed misuse, but the trust would change that. He made me promise to activate it only when they crossed the line. Their debts will catch up, he predicted. Jasmine helped finalize the papers, keeping it confidential. By then, the family's pet obsessions had created real financial holes: unpaid vet bills, store credits in default. I bailed them out multiple times, sacrificing my own growth. One year, Kayla sold my backup drive for a rabbit hutch, claiming emotional support. The cycle repeated, with Mom pushing sharing as love. Dad never stepped in. The debts mounted to thousands, hidden in statements I ignored to avoid fights. Grandpa's words echoed as his health faded. Use the trust to teach them, he urged. Jasmine assured me it was ironclad, designed to reveal their irresponsibility. Looking back, those 5 years were a slow drain. I built the startup through rejections and all-nighters, while they treated my efforts as their bank. The debts from their habits, pet food subscriptions, grooming services were the tipping point Grandpa foresaw. I returned to the office after the coffee shop blow-up, but they followed soon after. The startup space in Denver was my domain, with open desks and whiteboards covered in flowcharts. My family burst through the door uninvited, Mom leading with a photo album tucked under her arm. Dad trailed behind, holding his phone like a shield. Kayla clutched the dog's carrier, Aunt Taylor and Uncle Joshua flanking her. "We need to resolve this now," Mom declared, dropping the album on my desk. They spread out, ignoring the curious glances from my team in the next room. Mom opened the album first. "Look at this. Brianna, remember our trip to the zoo when you were 10? We all shared the costs back then." I crossed my arms. That was different. No one sold my belongings. Dad flipped to another page. "Here's Kayla's first birthday. You helped blow out the candles. Family sticks together." Kayla set the carrier down. "Exactly. The dog is part of that now. It's bringing us closer." Aunt Taylor pointed to a holiday shot. "See us all smiling, don't ruin the memories over one item." Uncle Joshua nodded. "We've always pulled through as a unit. This is no exception." I sat at my desk, watching them. Memories don't pay for my delayed investor pitch. That device had all my files. Mom turned to a recent photo. "Your graduation. We were so proud. Now show that pride by letting this go," Dad added. "We'll find a way to replace it. Kayla can contribute once she's stable." Kayla opened the carrier, letting the dog sniff around. "It's not like I kept the money. The breeder needed it up front." Aunt Taylor smiled. "Pets build responsibility. Give her a chance," Uncle Joshua said. "We've had rough spots before. This is minor." The pressure built inside me. They waved those pictures like weapons. But I saw the truth behind them, the times they borrowed without repaying, the debts from their choices. "You think photos erase the impact? My team is waiting on those designs." Mom closed the album. "We're offering to discuss repayment. Start small, like monthly installments." Dad pulled up his banking app. "I can transfer something now. Say $100. Kayla scooped up the dog. "See, we're trying. Don't be stubborn," Aunt Taylor said. "Family forgives. Hold on to that." Uncle Joshua agreed. "Let's hug it out and move on." I shook my head. Trying isn't enough when it affects my business. That's when my phone rang. "Jasmine, my financial advisor?" I answered quietly. "The records show their debts from past borrowings are overdue. Ready to proceed?" Her voice was calm. "Yes," I replied. "Start the liquidation on the shared holdings." Mom's eyes narrowed. "Who is that?" I set the phone down. "My financial advisor, Jasmine. She's handling some adjustments." Dad frowned. "Adjustments to what?" I opened my laptop. Logging into the trust portal. "To the family assets, based on those old debts you never cleared, like the loans for Kayla's previous pets." They exchanged glances. Mom laughed nervously. "What debts?" "That's old news." I clicked through. "Watch." One by one, accounts shifted. Family savings liquidated partial. Stock portfolio sell order initiated on a portion. Credit lines restricted access. Kayla grabbed her phone first. My app says error. The balance is dropping. Dad checked his. Mine too. It shows a transfer out. Aunt Taylor panicked. Our joint investment, it's selling shares. Uncle Joshua stared. This can't be real. The room filled with alerts pinging. Mom's face paled as her card app flashed denied. Brianna, stop this. I felt the betrayal surge years of their misuse, the debts they hid while I built alone. Those borrowings for pets and emergencies added up. Now they're being settled. Kayla hugged the dog tighter. You're punishing us over nothing. Dad stood. This is extreme, Aunt Taylor said. We came to talk. Not this. Uncle Joshua added. Reverse it now. Ne fool. But I stayed firm, the weight of their actions hitting full force. The liquidation had begun, exposing the cracks they'd ignored. I arrived at the community center in Denver by noon, the weight of their excuses still heavy. The meeting room was plain, with folding chairs arranged in a circle. Jasmine, my financial advisor, stood ready with a folder, her expression calm but firm. Mom, Dad, Kayla, Aunt Taylor, and Uncle Joshua filed in, their faces tense. A notary from Jasmine's firm sat quietly, pen poised over a legal pad. Jasmine began, holding up a document. This is the trust established by Henry Clark, dated 3 years ago, superseding all prior arrangements. She read aloud, her voice steady. The trust holds real estate valued at $2 million, investment portfolios at $3 million, and the family home in trust. Mom gasped. That's everything we have, Jasmine continued. Henry named Brianna Lewis as sole trustee, granting full control over distributions. Dad shook his head. He wouldn't do that to us. Jasmine slid the document forward. It's signed, notarized, with witnesses present at his hospital bed. He was clear-headed. Kayla clutched her bag. This is a setup. You tricked him. Brianna. I leaned forward. No. Grandpa saw your habits, the debts from pet supplies, the unpaid loans piling up. Aunt Taylor interrupted. We borrowed for good reasons, Uncle Joshua added. Family helps family. Jasmine flipped to another page. Henry listed specifics. Denise withdrew $40,000 for pet-related costs. Zachary took $20,000 for a failed side venture. Kayla, $15,000 for animals. None repaid. Taylor and Joshua. Combined, $30,000 in loans. Outstanding. Mom's voice trembled. Those were joint funds. Jasmine shook her head. You were authorized users, not owners. Brianna holds the title. I spoke up. Grandpa set conditions to teach responsibility. First, maintain steady employment for 6 months. Second, repay all debts to the trust. Third, complete payment of $2,000 for the laptop within 30 days. Fourth, sell the dog to offset that cost. Kayla stood, furious. Sell my dog. You're heartless. Dad raised a hand. That's too harsh. Brianna, Aunt Taylor snapped. You're tearing us apart over a computer, Uncle Joshua said. This is revenge. Plain and simple. I stayed calm. It's not revenge. It's accountability. That laptop held my startup's future client contracts, investor decks. You took it without asking, knowing your debts were already sinking us. Mom's eyes narrowed. You're exaggerating the impact. Jasmine pulled out a financial report. The unpaid debts triggered penalties, pushing the family's credit into default. Liquidation started yesterday to cover those. Kayla checked her phone, her face paling. My card's frozen again. Dad scrolled his app. The house payment, it's flagged for review, Aunt Taylor whispered. Our savings are locked. Uncle Joshua slammed his fist. This is theft, no, I said. Voice firm. Theft is selling my equipment for a pet. Grandpa warned you'd drain everything. Like you did to him. He trusted me to stop it. Jasmine handed me a letter from Grandpa. I read aloud. Brianna, they'll call you cruel, but you're protecting what I built. Make them earn it. Mom's hands shook. He didn't mean this. Dad pleaded. We're family. Brianna, fix this, Kayla yelled. You're punishing me for needing help, Aunt Taylor added. We'll pay. Just stop, Uncle Joshua said. Give us a chance. I closed the letter. You've had chances. 5 years of chances, while I covered your debts and built my company alone. The conditions stand work. Repay, sell the dog, or lose everything to charity in 5 years. Kayla's eyes welled up. You'd let us lose the house? I nodded. If you don't follow through. Jasmine closed her folder. The trust is airtight. Brianna's decision is final. The room went quiet, their arguments fading under the reality of Grandpa's plan. They'd pushed me too far, and now they faced the consequences of their own choices. The fallout hit hard 2 days after the community center meeting. Kayla showed up at the pet dealership, leash in hand, to return the dog. The breeder took it back, citing misuse of funds, and issued a refund of $1,000, half the laptop's value. Kayla texted me, furious. You made me lose my companion. I didn't respond. The trust conditions were clear, and she'd ignored them. Meanwhile, the family's financial house collapsed. The liquidation Jasmine initiated uncovered their hidden debts, over $70,000 from pet supplies, unpaid loans, and defaulted credit lines. The bank flagged their accounts, triggering a Chapter 7 bankruptcy filing. By the 3rd day, their world unraveled further. The family home, held in trust, faced foreclosure proceedings because of the outstanding debts. Their credit scores tanked. Mom's dropped to 400. Dad's barely higher. Local employers turned them away. No one wanted workers tied to financial ruin. Mom called relentlessly, leaving 33 voicemails. Brianna, we can't buy groceries. The bank rejected our cards. Fix this, please. I listened to one, her voice breaking, but deleted the rest. Dad sent texts, short and desperate. We're losing everything. Talk to us. Aunt Taylor tried emailing. We didn't mean it to go this far. Uncle Joshua left a single message. You're destroying us. I stayed silent, working late at my startup office. Tyler stopped by, his face concerned. Your mom called me, said they're moving to a rental. They're blaming you. I nodded. They made their choices. Jasmine called to update me. The liquidation sold off their stock shares, covering some debts, but the rest pushed them into bankruptcy. She paused. The house goes next week. I thanked her and hung up. The trust allowed me to protect my assets while their negligence caught up. Kayla tried one last time, posting on social media. My sister's vendetta cost me my dog and our home. The comments turned fast. Neighbors we'd known for years chimed in. You sold her laptop for a pet, that's on you. Another wrote, your family lived off her for years. Her post backfired, losing her followers. The pet store cut ties, citing bad publicity. Kayla's job prospects vanished. She'd been banking on influencer gigs that never came. Mom and Dad's marriage buckled under the strain. By the 5th day, Dad moved out, renting a cheap apartment across town. Mom stayed in the house until the bank locked the doors. I met Tyler for coffee that afternoon. They're calling you cold, he said, stirring his drink. My parents think you're doing the right thing. Though, I sipped mine. It's not about being cold, it's about survival. Jasmine sent a final report. Liquidation proceeds cleared some trust debts, but the family's credit was unsalvageable. Their defaulted loans meant no new credit for 7 years. Kayla, with no job or home, crashed with friends, her belongings in a duffel bag. Aunt Taylor and Uncle Joshua faced their own fallout. unable to borrow after their accounts were tied to the bankruptcy. The community buzzed with gossip. Old neighbors stopped by my office, offering support. "Your grandpa would have backed you," one said. I nodded, focusing on my next investor pitch. The laptop's loss had set me back, but I borrowed a device and rebuilt my files. The startup was still alive, and I wasn't bailing them out again. Mom's final voicemail came that night. "Brianna, we're sorry. Please help us." I didn't call back. Their years of selling my things, piling debts had consequences they couldn't dodge. The trust had done its job, exposing their recklessness,